make sure that it's fun for you every day, even the challenges, even the things that you don't want to do, that eventually you'll be able to pass those things off. But just make sure that whatever it is, it's fun to you.
Welcome to A Founder's Life. I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. On this show, we dive into the real stories behind the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and how we pursue a more integrated and meaningful life along the way. This podcast is sponsored by Thanks, helping founders like us scale with reliable remote talent. Well, I'm excited today to be joined by Marlo Fogelman. Marlo, thank you for joining. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Leo. Sure. I am a 22-year-old founder. I'm not 22-year-old. My company is 22 years old. Of a company called Marlo Marketing. We're based in Boston, Massachusetts, and we do work in 3 areas: hospitality, mostly food and beverage, CPG, and lifestyle clients for brands across the United States.
Excellent. And talk to us a little bit about the journey that brought you to where you are today, and then just a little more about what your business is doing for your clients.
Sure. Well, the journey was a little bit erratic. I actually moved to Boston originally from Detroit to go to law school. And I went to law school. I got a master's degree at the same time in international relations. I took and passed the bars in New York and Massachusetts. And then I decided I didn't really know that I wanted to practice law. And so I kind of had a little bit of what I'd like to call a pre-life crisis, my late 20s. And I messed around for a couple of years trying to just figure out what to do. And a friend saw an ad for a PR firm that was advertising in actually a legal newspaper and said, "You'd be perfect for this role." I had no idea what PR was. I had never taken a class in marketing. We didn't have the internet back then or AI to just Google and or search and ask and find out. And I applied for the job. They had 500 lawyers apply for that role, which was more than they'd ever had apply for anything. And I got it. And I had no idea why. The job was to do professional services kinds of accounts, law firms, energy companies, that sort of thing. And they were looking for a lawyer for that particular more serious skill set, if you will. And while I was there, Starbucks had entered the New England market in 1995 by buying a small 6-unit chain of coffee shops. And people in New England at the time didn't really know what espresso beverages were. Dunkin' Donuts was the king. It's headquartered here, and everybody just drank Dunkin'. And so they went through 5 PR firms in 5 years, hiring and firing every year. They were at the company that had hired me as a lawyer, and they'd been there 6 months and they weren't happy. But even at that point, I knew enough people in Boston that they said to the CEO, "You're lucky to have Marlo. She's amazing." And so I think they were like, "Let's put her on Starbucks. If she messes it up, we're going to lose it anyway. We'll fire her." And I turned it around basically single-handedly in 3 months and ended up keeping that account for 5 years. And they moved me twice, once to another firm after 2 years, and then after about 2 years, left and started my own company, and they were my first client.
That's a nice first client.
It's a good first client. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Yeah. And so we've evolved since then. Even then, when you could really be focused on more earned or paid and not really worry about integrating, I knew that there was, while PR at the time, and still it is to some extent, but not as much as it was, is the most credible and effective way, cost-effective way to build a brand. You can't rely on it for everything. And so I started the company as an integrated marketing communications agency. It was a little bit of smoke and mirrors at the beginning, where it was just me and, eventually a couple staff, but we grew into that. And so today we really are that. So brands will hire us. Some clients hire us just for brand identity. They need a logo. If it's a restaurant, they need a website, signage, menus. If it's a CPG brand, packaging, email marketing, truck wraps, all the things. And then that's it. And then other brands hire us to be their PR firm, their social firm, their digital marketing firm, their influencer firm, whatever. And then more and more, we've been getting into fractional CMO and execution. So we come in, and if there's a CMO or VP of marketing in place, oftentimes we help fill in the gaps of the team. And if there's not, we often are finding ourselves working directly with the C-suite and just helping them figure out the strategy, how they should be spending their money, what they should be doing to achieve the business goals, and then executing at the same time. So that's sort of with the company. And then we just launched this summer, actually, a new service for generative engine optimization, which is interesting because a lot of brands aren't really thinking about this yet and realizing that they're invisible when people go and ask questions on the LLMs, and they're going to be in trouble when people are asking what's the best Italian restaurant and they're not showing up. And so it's interesting because we started as a PR firm. It's the PR. It's being out there that they use to source their answers. And so it's really important more than ever to have a really strong PR strategy and have your name out there, which is interesting and a little ironic. It's sort of come come full circle. So
that's great. It's interesting. I've got a new business which I'm launching, which will be live pretty soon. I was talking a few days ago to my business partner about that because obviously, if you're going to design something now, it should be GEO from the ground up. There's no point in not. And so he actually went out to, I think it was the top 10 or 15 search engines globally, because we think of the 3 or 4 here, but actually, if you're appealing to a global audience, there are others. And he actually talked to each of the AI tools about what they need to see. So he got them to tell them what the best way to give them content for it to appear in, etc. So he's then built that in so that our system actually is able to almost serve custom content to each of the AI engines to really maximize GEO.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, you're going to win all the business for me then, Leo. I don't know. Ours isn't that specific for each site.
I mean, it's a different kind of thing. This is an all-encompassing product.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I've got a friend who's in the SEO world. He's got a marketing business he's had for a long time. And I remember him saying to me a couple of years ago, he was really into AI, full steam ahead into AI. And he said, the SEO business will be dead within a few years. He said, oh my God, you've got to learn new skills because a business just doing SEO is not going to still exist if that's your core business.
Yeah. And I would argue the same thing. A business just doing PR from 22 years ago, if that's all I've been doing for the past 22 years, I don't think I would still be in business. There's just not enough to do.
So yeah, doing a good job of both reinventing yourself and also more to the point, evolving. Probably a better way of.
That is the operative word, evolving. You have to in this business.
Yeah, I think definitely, especially this new world that is accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's exciting as well.
It's exciting. It's a lot. I mean, all the evolution over the past, 25 years since I've been in the industry with the, invention of social media and loyalty programs and retail media networks and all the thing. Like there was a pace. Now AI is just like full on and it's intense. It's a lot. You really have to stay abreast and how to use it. And because a lot of people are going to be left behind, unfortunately.
That's true. But the beauty is if you learn to embrace it, and I said this to my team, it must have been about a year ago, I was talking to a few people in my team and I'm like, you will all be unemployed if you don't learn AI. Forget unemployed with me. You'll be unemployable within a couple of years. So you need to embrace AI. You can do it on our payroll. That's fine, but either way, you'll be unemployed if you don't, if you can't really embrace it. Yeah. And again, my business partner was talking to someone in our marketing team recently, and there was some things we were asking him to do that he just didn't know. It was completely new for him. And my business partner was like, that's fine. You actually don't need to know it all right now. AI will teach you it all. So I think the difference is right now, if you embrace these tools, they'll actually teach you what you need to know. They'll teach you how to do it.
And you know what? AI, yes, 100%. But a lot of these things before, when I hired my first VP, the reason we got into a lot of this outsourced stuff is that I had a 27-unit restaurant group call me, I don't know, probably 10, 11 years ago at this point. And locations, Maine to Pennsylvania, been around 30 years. 4 were franchised, the rest were corporate owned. And the CEO calls me up and says, I want to fire my entire internal marketing team. He had 6 people and hire you. I was like, I don't do that. No, I work under that person. That person tells me what to do. We tell them what to do. They generally say, no, do it this way. We know it's wrong, but they're the client, so we do it. And that's sort of the agency game, right? And he said, well, I think you can do it. So we came in and we did this 3-month audit on the brand and presented this book. It was one of the hardest things I had done actually since studying for the bar exam. And we came in and we set the company's single day sales record in 30 years. We broke milestone after milestone after milestone. And then we did the same thing with a senior living community south of Boston and a wellness resort in Palm Beach. They didn't have marketing. The restaurant, the guy who was running marketing had been a bartender 30 years earlier and probably was amazing when there were 3 stores within a 15-mile radius and you could still do tequila shots off girls' belly buttons on the bar without getting canceled, right? But fast forward. So it didn't occur to me that there was actually a business opportunity here. And then COVID hit, we got destroyed, as you can imagine, given our industries. And 2 weeks after lockdown, a friend called and introduced me to the CEO of a 500-unit QSR that had $500,000 in salary, CMO and VPs of marketing and whatever. And they couldn't figure out how to handle it. And so we went and took that over and turned it around in 2 weeks. And they ended up firing the CMO. And so that's really how we got more into the full service execution piece of it and all of the things that came with it, right? Building loyalty programs or digital marketing or whatever. And we just learned, right? You can do even before AI, you could go to YouTube and, search how to do this. And so a lot of marketing today, I mean, I never took a class, obviously. I'm a lawyer. I literally never took a class in marketing. And a lot of marketing today is really just, excuse my French, fucking around and figuring it out. And so that's been something that's been really interesting. We just had to replace somebody who'd been with me for about 10 years. She's going in-house to a client. And I'm like, how do I find this person? Because I don't really care about what they're coming to me, what they know. I need somebody who's curious, who's going to think about things and who's going to figure it out. And then I had this idea. I have a friend who's an AI genius. He's never really done digital marketing, which is what I needed. And he's smart. He figures stuff out. I mean, he's doing all kinds of things with AI. I'm like, you want it? So now we brought him on to do that and he's going to figure it out. So marketing today is really about, and no matter what category you're in, whatever sort of niche, it's really being clever and thinking about it. And it's less about what you know and what you come to the table knowing from school or past jobs or whatever, and the willingness to be curious. So that's what I look for when I hire people.
I love that. Willingness to be curious. That's a great one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Thank
that's
you.
very true.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about how family looks for you.
Family looks for me like this, my little puppy. I'm not married and I don't have kids, but I have friends who are like family that I spend a lot of time with and prioritize more than I did. I started the company when I was 32 and God bless the women who could figure it all out. And I mean, I look at some of my friends with 4 kids and busy careers, and I have a hard time managing my life with me and this dog. So I don't know how they do it. It's not something that I feel like I missed out on. I have a niece that I'm very close with, and I get to play mommy when I want to, and when I don't want to, here you go. Here's the kid, and I get to go do what I want. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to that when I have grandkids one day. When they annoy me, I can hand them back.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So.
And talk to us about health. So, for health, whether that be mental health, physical health, nutrition, fitness, however that looks for you. And I know you're also sort of kicking off to a health resort soon as well. But how does that look for you?
Health has always been something that's been really important to me. I mean, we used to have a big office in Boston before COVID, and I had kombucha on tap before anybody knew what kombucha was. I sort of started a journey probably at this point 20 years ago. I was having symptoms of leaky gut and I didn't know what it was. I've never been one to just take a pill to suppress a symptom. I always want to figure out what is it and how do I change the issue instead of just suppress it and, kick the can down the road, if you will. And so I went on this path. I think a lot of people claim to be doing that kind of work who really don't know. I've done everything. I've been raw vegan. I've been vegetarian. I've been paleo. I've done the whole gamut. I've done all the exercise, all the things. And now I really try and think about moderation. We were talking, I'm not aspiring to be somebody who has no life and is just drinking juice 24/7, although I have done that. It's really knowing when you can play more and when you can't. During COVID, for example, the summer of 20, I had to work so hard to save my business. Like, I don't know why. I'm not a big drinker anyway. I never have been. But I just knew, no alcohol. I can't. It's just going to add another layer at a time when the urgency trying to achieve, which was save my company. It just there was no room for it. I take a lot of time to move. I travel a lot, so it depends where I am. When I'm in New York or Boston, I always get steps. When I'm in Palm Springs, where I have a home, if I don't get steps there, I make myself walk around the block until I get 10,000 steps because I have no excuse when I'm out there and it's, beautiful weather in February and there's snow on the East Coast. I do a lot of yoga. I started doing solid core last year, which I'm obsessed with. And it's just an easy way. I can be there in 5 minutes, do my class, get out and feel good. So I've tried to incorporate health and health-minded things over the years. I was just on Martha's Vineyard last week for a yoga retreat. Then I went less for the yoga and more for the girlfriends, because I think a lot of, to your point, the mental piece of it is just as important as the physical piece. Gratitude journals, vision boards, positive vibes, sort of all those things is sort of my approach.
Well, sounds like a good approach. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast on my run this morning, and they are actually talking about it. Was some kind of expert in brain health, especially as you age, as we age.
Yeah.
And he talked about social as being one of the things that's shown to have one of the biggest effects by having a healthy social life, how that helps put off Alzheimer's and that sort of decline?
Yeah, to be totally honest, it wasn't something that I prioritized for a long time because I just was working all the time. And I think probably when I hit 40, early 40s, I started to sort of get on that path. And then COVID just exacerbated it. And so I won't work. I refuse to work at the level that I used to. I don't have to, I guess, but even just I won't. Even when if I'm traveling or at a conference, I would go back to my room after entertaining all night and deal with emails. Now, computer's shut. I'll get to them when I get to them. And so that's part of having a great team as well.
And what do you like to do for fun?
What do I like to do for fun? Well, I love wellness stuff. So, I mean, I like going to the vineyard for that. I'm going to India later next month for a wellness thing. And to me, that's fun. For me, I do believe that if I'm spending time with people that I care about, whatever we're doing, going to the grocery store, taking the dog for a walk is fun. And I don't really have any like hang gliding or parachuting or anything like that. But just I love to explore cities, stop and have a great cup of coffee. I'm very much a coffee snob, find great restaurants. I'm not a big planner, so I like to travel with friends who are and think about all that. We have to do this museum. We have to do this restaurant. We have to do this. And I'm kind of just like, whatever, let's just enjoy. Lots of things can be fun.
Sounds like it. And quick request to the audience, if you're enjoying these conversations, please click the subscribe button. And Marlo, looking at all the different aspects we talked about, how do you make sure you leave sort of an integrated life across those different areas? And at some points, one is more than the other, but overall, how do you make sure that you leave room for everything?
That's a good question. Like I said, I didn't always, for a long time, work took priority for everything. But I would say since COVID, it really has. And I will take time to do what I want to do. And, I'm traveling next week. I'm going on a trip in 2 weeks. And it does stress me out a little bit because I feel like I need to sometimes focus on and put more effort into work. Not that I'm not, but I'm just doing it in a different way. But this morning I was thinking about it and it's like, you know what? If you have to be doing some work instead of being at the beach for a few days, it's just living in a different place. And, we used to be in the office before COVID. Now we're fully remote except one day. And so it makes it much easier. I definitely enjoy my life a lot more now than I did before COVID when I was in the office. Either I was in the office late or I was out at an event or events, plural, late. And that's really changed a lot. And that's been I think it's made it much easier to sort of have that integration and thinking about how to incorporate everything into your life. But it's also about prioritizing, right? Prioritizing to spend time with friends, prioritizing to, take a walk or do something that you need for yourself at the moment. And I do it much better than I used to.
As long as we're evolving.
That's right. That's right.
And if looking at your life, what has been a pivotal moment?
Pivotal moment. I mean, I think there's a lot of them. I think, taking that first job in PR when I didn't know what it was and turning that into a career, working for other people, even I really worked for other people for 2 years because when I left that first company and Starbucks came with me, the second company that I went to couldn't afford me. So I brought Starbucks and the Starbucks retainer was my salary. And I didn't have any aspirations ever of starting a company. My idea was to help that woman who'd been in business 15 years, was about 3 people, grow her business. And I did significantly. But after, a year or so, it sort of just became very clear that we didn't have the same approach to relationships and growth. And so that was why I left. And the only reason I started my company was because I figured if I'm working this hard for other people, I might as well just do it for myself. And it just turned into what it turned into. At our height before COVID, we were 45 people. We had a big office downtown. It was all the things. And I'm glad I did it, but I would never want it again. I would never want it again. It provides just different levels of challenges and stress. But the way the world is, the changes and the evolution that are so fast and furious these days, it's just a different.
An entrepreneur is never an easy journey. And that jumps perfectly into my next question for you, which is if you had one piece of advice you'd give to an aspiring entrepreneur, what would that be?
One piece of advice. Make sure that it's fun. Make sure that it's fun for you every day, even the challenges, even the things that you don't want to do, that eventually you'll be able to pass those things off. But just make sure that whatever it is, it's fun to you.
Perfect. Well, Marlo, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And how can people find you?
They can find me at marlomarketing.com. They can find me on LinkedIn at Marlo Fogelman, all sorts of ways. We actually, one thing I'll throw out, talking about evolution, we have a newsletter that I started. The first one went out January of 2005, and it's gone out every month since. And the only reason we started it was because back then when we were strongly PR, a client would have an event on a Saturday, want the media to write about it in advance, and you could read about it and say, oh, let's go to this, looks great. And the media would write about it on Friday. And so, oh, this looks great, but I have plans for Monday. So we started this newsletter, and we knew that it had to be really well written, really engaging, or people weren't going to read it, right? Which is really like sort of the whole social media strategy about it. And so I would encourage people also to sign up for that if they wanted to on the website. But yeah, lots of different ways.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and leave a review.